First contact and underestimation. The massive starship emerged from the rippling spacefold, a leviathan of shimmering alloys against Earth's blue backdrop. Commander Vrax stood on the bridge, his 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the viewscreen. Earth looked disappointingly ordinary, one of thousands of blue-green worlds scattered across the Galactic Alliance's charts. Primitive communications detected across all bandwidths, reported Science Officer Talara, her translucent fingers dancing across holographic controls. Their global network is unprotected. We could access it entirely. Vrax nodded, mandibles clicking in amusement. Another pre-warp civilization for the collection. Begin the standard protocol. The Alliance had assimilated over 300 species in its 10,000-year history. The pattern was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate technological superiority, offer protection in exchange for resources and submission. Those who accepted thrived as vassals. Those who refused learned painful lessons. None had ever refused twice. Sir, Talara's voice wavered. They've detected us. Expected, Vrax replied dismissively. Let them panic. It makes the diplomatic phase easier. No, sir. They've hailed us, using our own communication protocols. Vrax's ridge of sensory spines stiffened along his skull. Impossible. They shouldn't even know our frequencies exist. A human face appeared on the view screen. A woman with dark skin, silver-streaked hair, and eyes that showed neither fear nor surprise. Greetings, Commander. I am Director Elena Chen of Earth's Stellar Defense Initiative. Welcome to our solar system. Vrax regained his composure quickly. These primitives had gotten lucky, perhaps salvaging technology from a crashed scout ship. It happened occasionally. I am Fleet Commander Vrax of the Galactic Alliance. We come with an offer of protection and advancement for your species. Director Chen smiled politely. That's very kind. Perhaps we should discuss this in person. We've prepared landing coordinates for your shuttle. 6 hours later, Vrax sat in a spacious conference room in a facility buried beneath a mountain range. His diplomatic team, 4 specialists in different fields, flanked him at a long table. Across sat Director Chen with her own team, including a tall man introduced as General Marcus Okafor and a slender woman named Dr. Amara Senator. The Alliance governs 37 sectors containing 312 species, Vrax explained, activating a holographic display showing the vast territory. We offer technology, protection, medical advancement, and cultural exchange. And what would Earth provide in return? Asked Chen. Resources, primarily. Some military support when required. Compliance with Alliance regulations. Vrax gestured casually. Standard terms for species at your development level. General Okafor leaned forward. And if we're not interested? All civilizations need protection. General. Vrax's voice hardened slightly. The galaxy contains threats you cannot imagine. Without our protection, you would be vulnerable to exploitation, invasion, or worse. Are you threatening us, Commander? Chen asked, her voice still pleasant. Merely stating reality, Director. The Alliance fleet includes 20,000 warships. We control technologies your scientists haven't dreamed of. The smart choice is clear. To Vrax's surprise, Dr. Sen chuckled softly. Something amuses you, Doctor? Vrax asked, irritation seeping into his voice. I apologize, she replied, not looking remotely apologetic. It's just that you've traveled so far based on such incomplete information. Vrax's sensory ridge flared. Explain. Chen intervened smoothly. What Dr. Sen means is that we appreciate your offer, but would like time to consult with our global leadership. You have 24 of your Earth hours, Vrax stated, standing abruptly. Then we will require your answer. As they prepared to leave, General Okafor stepped closer. Commander, out of curiosity, how long has your alliance been observing Earth? Approximately 50 of your years, Vrax replied. Standard procedure before first contact. Okafor and Chen exchanged glances that Vrax couldn't interpret. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "Not at all," Chen smiled. "We'll see you tomorrow." Back on his ship, Vrax convened with his advisors. Their reaction was unexpected, he admitted. They showed no fear, no awe. "Perhaps they don't understand our capabilities," suggested military advisor Krell, a hulking figure with scarred exoskeletal armor. "Or perhaps," countered cultural specialist Miva, her feathered crest rippling with thought, "they know something we don't." "Impossible," Krell growled. "Our surveillance has been thorough. They've barely reached their own moon. Their weapons are primitive, their energy sources inefficient, yet they knew our communication protocols." Vrax mused. "Scan deeper. I want to know everything about their defense capabilities before tomorrow." 23 hours later, Vrax stood before the Alliance High Command via quantum link, his posture rigid with controlled fury. "They refused." Grand Marshal Zivin's voice resonated with disbelief. "They did more than refuse," Vrax reported. "They suggested an alternative, equal diplomatic relations with no resource tributes or military submission." The 7 members of High Command exchanged glances through their holographic projections. "Preposterous," stated Admiral Yorax. "They must understand the consequences." "I made those clear," Vrax confirmed. They seemed unconcerned. "What do your scans show of their defenses?" asked Strategic Director Helvix. Vrax hesitated. "Inconclusive. We detect conventional weapons, rudimentary orbital platforms, nothing that could challenge even a single Alliance cruiser. But speak freely, Commander. There are energy readings we cannot explain. Fluctuations in their planetary magnetic field, and their satellite network appears more extensive than our initial surveys suggested." Grand Marshal Zivin leaned forward, his ancient face grave. "In 10,000 years, Commander, we have never allowed a pre-warp civilization to dictate terms. The Alliance cannot show weakness. Your orders, Marshal. Demonstrate our resolve. A single strike against an uninhabited area, their polar region or a desert. Show them our power. They will reconsider. And if they don't..." The Grand Marshal's expression hardened. "Then we will provide a more persuasive demonstration." When the communication ended, Vrax turned to Krell. "Prepare a kinetic strike on their northern polar region. Minimal environmental impact, maximum visual effect." "With pleasure, Commander." 6 hours later, Vrax stared at the view screen in disbelief. "Report," he demanded. Weapons Officer Jax looked stunned. "The kinetic projectile disappeared, sir, approximately 500 kilometers above the target." "Disappeared? Weapons don't disappear." "It entered what appeared to be a localized distortion in space-time," Science Officer Tolera interjected, her voice shaking. "Then, nothing. No impact. No debris." A transmission alert flashed. Director Chen appeared on screen, looking as calm as before. "Commander Vrax, I assume you're calling about your kinetic projectile." Vrax struggled to maintain composure. "What happened to our weapon, Director?" "We intercepted it. Standard defensive procedure." "Intercepted? How?" "Your technology, Sholand." "Commander," Chen interrupted gently, "I think it's time we had a more honest conversation. Perhaps you should bring Grand Marshal Zivin as well. This concerns the entire Alliance." Vrax's mandibles clicked in agitation. "You know of the Grand Marshal." Chen smiled. "We know a great deal about the Alliance, Commander. Far more than you realize." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Options," Vrax demanded. "Full attack," Krell responded immediately. "They've revealed a previously unknown defense capability, but they cannot possibly withstand our full arsenal." "Or," Miva suggested, "we could attempt to understand what we're actually facing here." Vrax made his decision. "Prepare a full battle squadron. 15 ships, maximum armaments, but hold them in reserve." He turned to communications. "Contact the Grand Marshal. Tell him Tell him we may have miscalculated." 24 hours later, Grand Marshal Zivan sat across from Director Chen in the same underground facility. The ancient leader of the Alliance military had never before visited a pre-acceptance world, but his curiosity had overcome protocol. "You've created quite a stir, Director Chen," Zivan stated, his gravelly voice neutral. "In my 300 years of service, no world at your development stage has ever intercepted an Alliance weapon." Chen nodded. "Perhaps that's because you've been measuring our development incorrectly." "Elaborate." Chen activated a display, showing Earth's historical timeline. "Your observers arrived 50 years ago and documented our space program, nuclear capabilities, and global information network. What they couldn't see was what we chose to keep hidden." The display changed, showing complex schematics and images that made Zivan's ancient eyes widen. 200 years ago, Chen continued, a physicist named Ileana Ramirez discovered something unusual, microscopic tears in spacetime that allowed glimpses into other dimensions. Within decades, we'd learned to create and stabilize these tears. Within a century, we could step through them. "Dimensional phase technology," Zivan whispered. "That's beyond even our capabilities. We know. When we first detected your observation ships 50 years ago, we decided to maintain the appearance of a pre-warp civilization while learning everything we could about the Alliance." Zivan's posture had changed, the overconfidence replaced by wary respect. "And what did you learn?" "That the Alliance operates on a principle of technological hierarchy, that you classify civilizations by specific benchmarks, warp capability being a major one, and treat those below certain thresholds as inherently inferior. It's an effective system," Zivan defended. "It has brought stability to a chaotic galaxy. For the Alliance, perhaps. Less so for the resource worlds you've stripped or the species whose development you've stunted to maintain your position." Zivan's eyes narrowed. "You've been spying on us." "Observing," Chen corrected. "Just as you've been observing us. The difference is, our observation posts can shift slightly out of phase with normal spacetime, undetectable by your sensors. The implication hung in the air between them. How many human observation posts existed throughout Alliance territory? How much did they know?" Zivan, a veteran of countless negotiations, recognized the shift in power. "What do you want, Director Chen?" "Exactly what we proposed yesterday. Equal diplomatic relations. No tributes, no submissions. A fair exchange of knowledge and culture." "And if I refuse?" Chen sighed. "We'd prefer to avoid demonstrations, Marshal. They tend to create resentment rather than understanding. You believe you could challenge the full might of the Alliance." There was no mockery in Zivan's tone now, only genuine curiosity. Chen's answer was simple. "We know we could, but we'd rather not." Vrax watched from the corner, seeing something he'd never witnessed before. The Grand Marshal of the Galactic Alliance seriously considering the terms of a supposedly inferior civilization. "I will need to consult with the Alliance Council," Zivan finally said. "Of course, we'll maintain our current defensive posture until then." As they prepared to leave, Zivan paused. "One question, Director. If you've had this technology for centuries, why haven't you expanded? Colonized other worlds? Built an empire of your own?" Chen smiled. "Who says we haven't?" The revelation. Grand Marshal Zivan stood before the full Alliance Council, 200 representatives from the most powerful species in known space. For millennia, this chamber had witnessed declarations of war, peace treaties, and the occasional judgment against wayward member worlds. Never had it hosted a debate about granting equal status to a pre-warp civilization. "The humans have dimensional phase technology," Zivan repeated, his voice echoing across the vast chamber. "Technology that allows them to shift matter partially out of our dimension." "Impossible," declared Councillor Thex of the Maldorian Empire, his crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights. "No species develops dimensional manipulation before achieving warp capability. It defies the natural progression of scientific advancement." "Nevertheless," Zivan continued, They demonstrated this capability by intercepting our kinetic projectile. One weapon, military counselor Drav interjected. A test strike. That proves nothing about their ability to withstand a full assault. They claim to have been observing us for decades, Zivin added, using phase-shifted observation posts throughout Alliance territory. This caused an uproar among the counselors. The idea that primitives had been spying on them was both insulting and disturbing. This cannot be tolerated. Thex's voice rose above the others. If they possess some anomalous technology, we must secure it. If they're bluffing, they must be punished. Either way, a show of force is required. The council chamber divided quickly. Most supported immediate military action, a substantial fleet to demand surrender or deliver consequences. A minority, led by science counselor Linar of the Eternar Collective, urged caution. If they truly possess dimensional phase technology, Linar argued, a conventional attack might prove ineffective or even counterproductive. Are we to be intimidated by primitives? Drav countered. The Alliance has never backed down from such challenges. After hours of debate, the vote was clear. The Alliance would assemble its largest battle fleet in a century, 500 ships, including 3 planet crackers, and set course for Earth. Commander Vrax, watching from a secondary chamber, felt a growing unease. Humanity's calm in the face of Alliance power suggested either supreme arrogance or justified confidence. Neither boded well for a military solution. On Earth, Director Chen received the news with resignation rather than surprise. They've chosen the hard way, she noted to her command staff. 500 ships, including their most destructive weapons. General Okafor shook his head. They still think this is about firepower. Can you blame them? Dr. Sen replied. Their entire civilization is built around technological hierarchies. The idea that we might have developed along a different path is almost incomprehensible to them. Chen activated the global defense grid with a simple command. Around the planet, millions of microsatellites shifted slightly into phase, becoming visible to conventional sensors for the first time. In orbit and beyond, previously hidden defense platforms, monitoring stations, and research outposts shimmered into view. Alert all phase colonies, Chen ordered. Condition yellow. Throughout the solar system and beyond, on Mars, Europa, Titan, and a dozen other outposts, human settlements that had existed for over a century suddenly raised their defensive systems. Chen turned to a communications specialist. Contact the Proxima Observation Hub. Tell Director Kaminsky to prepare for possible Alliance incursion. Yes, Director. And the deep space colonies. Chen considered this. Information sharing only. No direct involvement unless specifically targeted. For 2 weeks, Earth waited as the Alliance assembled its battle fleet. Regular updates came through observation posts, documenting the gathering armada, battleships, carriers, destroyers, and support vessels drawing together from across Alliance territory. In the Alliance war room, military counselor Drav addressed the assembled commanders. This will be the largest single operation in Alliance history, he announced, gesturing to the holographic display of Earth. Our objective is simple: secure this world and its technology. Minimal civilian casualties if possible, but the demonstration of our power must be absolute. Commander Vrax, assigned as tactical coordinator for the operation, studied the attack plan with growing concern. It assumed conventional defenses and predictable responses. Nothing about humanity had proven conventional so far. Counselor, he ventured, perhaps we should consider alternative approaches. Your previous encounter has made you overly cautious, Commander, Drav replied dismissively. 500 ships against a single planet. The outcome is mathematically certain. Science Counselor Linar, present as an observer, caught Vrax's eye. Her expression mirrored his own doubts. When the meeting concluded, she approached him quietly. You've actually met these humans. What's your assessment? Vrax chose his words carefully. They were not intimidated by our power. They spoke as equals or, perhaps as something more. Linar nodded slowly. Our entire classification system assumes certain developmental patterns. What if some species follow entirely different paths? A concerning thought, Counselor. Indeed. And yet, we're responding with the same tactics we've used for millennia. 3 days before the fleet's scheduled arrival at Earth, Director Chen made an unexpected decision. We're going to show them one of our colonies, she announced to her surprised staff. Which one? General Okafor asked. Proxima Centauri V. It's close enough to make an impression without revealing too much. You think it will change their approach? Dr. Sen looked skeptical. Probably not their first approach, Chen admitted, but it might influence what comes after. The message was sent directly to Grand Marshal Zivin's command ship, a simple set of coordinates in the Proxima Centauri system, with an invitation to send a small delegation before committing to full military engagement. The Grand Marshal's response was predictable, a rejection citing transparent delaying tactics. Yet something about the specific invitation nagged at him. Why Proxima Centauri? He asked his advisors. It's the closest star system to Earth. Our surveys show only barren planets. Perhaps a bluff, suggested his chief strategist. Or a trap. Zivin made an uncharacteristic decision. Commander Vrax, take a scout ship to these coordinates. Maximum stealth. Observe only. Do not engage. 20 hours later, Vrax's scout ship dropped out of warp at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. What he witnessed changed everything. The fourth planet, previously catalogued as an uninhabitable rocky world, now showed clear signs of terraforming. Vast green zones spread across its surface. And in orbit, Vrax ordered enhanced scans, not believing the initial readings. Confirm orbital structures, he demanded. Confirmed, sir, his science officer replied, voice shaking. Multiple orbital habitats, research stations, and defense platforms. Population estimate, between 3 and 5 million humans. How long would terraforming of this scale take? Vrax asked. With our technology, at least 70 years, potentially much longer given the planet's original condition. Vrax stared at the view screen, the implications sinking in. They weren't lying. They'd been expanding for decades, possibly centuries, while keeping their true capabilities hidden. A communication request flashed on his console. Vrax hesitated, then accepted. Director Chen appeared, now dressed in what appeared to be a uniform. Welcome to Proxima Colony, Commander Vrax. I trust this answers some of your questions. How many? Vrax asked simply. Colonies. 37 within 50 light-years of Earth. Observation posts. Several hundred throughout what you call Alliance space. Vrax took a moment to process this. Why reveal this now? Because in 3 days, 500 Alliance ships will enter Earth's solar system with planet-cracking weapons. We prefer to avoid the tragedy that would follow. You believe you could defeat such a fleet? Chen's expression softened slightly. Commander, we've been studying Alliance weapons and defenses for over a century. We developed countermeasures decades ago. The implications were clear. The coming battle wouldn't be a demonstration of Alliance power. It would be a revelation of human capability. And potentially, the end of Alliance dominance. What do you propose? Vrax asked, his tone now respectful. Return to the fleet. Show Grand Marshal Zivin what you've seen. And suggest that perhaps diplomacy might achieve more than warfare in this instance. When Vrax's scout ship rejoined the Alliance fleet, the evidence he presented caused an immediate crisis among the High Command. Emergency sessions were called. Battle plans reconsidered. One colony proved nothing, Drav insisted. They may have diverted all their resources to create this single outpost as a bluff. Science Counselor Linar vehemently disagreed. The evidence suggests long-term development, not a hasty construction. And if they have one such colony, then they likely have others, Zivin finished, his ancient face grave, potentially throughout our territory. The debate raged for hours, but the approach of the deadline forced a decision. Despite the new information, the majority of commanders voted to proceed with the attack. Pride, momentum, and centuries of unchallenged dominance made retreat unthinkable. As the Alliance fleet approached Earth, they maintained battle formation, an overwhelming display of firepower designed to intimidate any opponent into surrender. No response to our final ultimatum, communications reported. They've had their chance, Drav declared. Begin the attack sequence. Throughout the fleet, weapons powered up. Target locks engaged on Earth's major military installations. The first wave, kinetic projectiles designed to overwhelm defensive systems, launched from 200 ships simultaneously. What happened next would be debated in Alliance strategic academies for centuries. The projectiles, traveling at near relativistic speeds, simply vanished. Not one reached its target. Instead, the space around Earth seemed to ripple, as though reality itself was being manipulated. Phase shields, Science Officer Talara whispered. They phase-shifted their entire planetary defense perimeter. Before the Alliance could launch a second wave, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. Thousands of small objects, previously undetected, now surrounded the fleet. Analysis, Drav demanded. Sir, they appear to be microsatellites, millions of them, forming a three-dimensional grid around our position. Director Chen's face appeared on every command screen throughout the fleet. This demonstration seems necessary, though I regret it, she said calmly. Your weapons cannot penetrate our phase shields. Meanwhile, these microsatellites can shift your ships partially out of phase, just enough to disable your weapons and propulsion without harming your crews. As if to prove her point, 50 Alliance ships suddenly lost power, their engines and weapons going dark simultaneously. What have you done? Drav demanded. Created a localized phase distortion, Chen explained. Temporary and harmless, but I think it makes our point. Grand Marshal Zivin stepped forward. You could disable our entire fleet this way. Yes, or worse, though that's not our intention. We've developed these technologies for exploration and defense, not conquest. The remaining 450 ships hung in space, suddenly vulnerable in a way the Alliance had never experienced. What do you want? Zivin asked, the question of a leader who recognized defeat. The same thing we wanted from the beginning. Equal diplomatic relations, recognition of Earth and its colonies as sovereign territory, fair trade and cultural exchange. And if we refuse? Chen shook her head. We've already demonstrated what would happen. But perhaps seeing is believing.